Steve chose a spot near his starter base, a grassy plain bathed in the warm glow of the Minecraft sun. He swung his trusty iron pickaxe. Each strike sent a satisfying crunch echoing through the air. He reveled in the familiar rhythm, his excitement growing with every block removed. Deeper and deeper Steve descended into the earth. He carefully placed torches along the walls, pushing back the oppressive darkness. The silence was almost unnerving, broken only by the rhythmic clang of his pickaxe and the soft crackle of the torches. He ignored the prickling sensation on the back of his neck. He told himself it was just the usual cave noises, but something felt different this time. Something felt off. Hours melted away as Steve toiled tirelessly. The rhythmic sound of his pickaxe striking stone echoed through the dimly lit tunnels, a constant companion in the otherwise silent underground world. Each swing brought him closer to his goal, but also deeper into the unknown. Panic welled up inside Steve. His heart raced as he tried to make sense of the eerie silence that had suddenly enveloped him. The once familiar and comforting sounds of the cave now seemed distant and alien. He spun around, searching for the source of the sound. Every shadow seemed to move, every corner held a potential threat. The darkness of the cave felt more oppressive than ever before. His eyes darted back and forth, scanning the dimly lit tunnels. The flickering torchlight cast eerie shadows that danced on the walls, making it hard to distinguish reality from imagination. But there was nothing there. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of his own ragged breathing. He felt a chill run down his spine. He was alone. Yet the footsteps continued, circling him, taunting him. The sound was unmistakable, echoing off the walls and growing louder with each passing second. Then he saw it. A single block, out of place, in the wall of his meticulously crafted chamber. It stood out like a sore thumb, disrupting the harmony of his creation. It was cobblestone, a block he hadn't used in his construction. The sight of it filled him with a sense of unease. How had it gotten there? He approached cautiously, his heart hammering in his chest. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the very air around him was thickening with dread. As he reached out to break the block, a message flashed in the chat. His hand trembled, hesitating for a moment before making contact. A single, chilling sentence in the otherwise empty chat window. Herobrine joined the game. The words seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy, sending a wave of fear through him. A wave of icy dread washed over Steve. He knew that name, the stuff of legends, Herobrine. The tales of this mysterious entity had been whispered among players for years, a ghost story that had now become his reality. Section 5. The chase is on. He had to get out. Steve scrambled back, his pickaxe forgotten on the floor. He ran through the tunnels, his breath catching in his throat. The footsteps followed, relentless, gaining on him. He could hear the scrape of stone against stone, each one a hammer blow to his sanity. He burst out of the entrance to his base, into the blinding sunlight. Relief flooded through him, brief and fleeting. The world around him flickered, the familiar landscape dissolving into a corrupted mess. Chunks of land disappeared into the void. The sun turned a sickly, blood red. Herobrine was in his world, and he was coming for him. Section 6. Face to face with terror. Steve sprinted across the broken landscape, his lungs burning, legs screaming for respite. He risked a glance over his shoulder. A figure materialized in the distance, shrouded in the distorted pixels of the glitching world. It was Herobrine. His skin was as white as bone, his eyes glowing an eerie white against the crimson sky. He moved with unnatural speed, gliding over the terrain as if the laws of physics didn't apply to him. Terror lent speed to Steve's feet. He dodged falling blocks, leaped over gaping chasms, but Herobrine was relentless, his presence growing stronger, the air thickening with dread. Steve could feel his hope draining away with every step. Section 7. No escape from the pixels. He ducked into a nearby cave, hoping for a reprieve, a moment to catch his breath. The world outside was relentless, filled with dangers that seemed to multiply with every passing second. The cave, with its promise of shelter, seemed like a sanctuary, a place where he could gather his thoughts and plan his next move. He stumbled through the darkness, his hands scraping against the rough stone. Each step was a struggle, the uneven ground threatening to trip him at any moment. The walls were cold and unyielding, a stark contrast to the warmth of the sunlit world outside. He could feel the weight of the mountain pressing down on him, a reminder of the dangers that lurked within. But the air grew colder, the darkness more oppressive. It was as if the cave itself was alive, breathing down his neck, whispering threats in the silence. The deeper he went, the more he felt the chills seep into his bones, making him shiver despite his best efforts to stay warm. The icy blue tint of the cave walls seemed to glow with an otherworldly light, casting eerie shadows that danced and flickered in the corners of his vision. The familiar sounds of the cave were replaced by an eerie silence. Gone were the comforting drips of water and the distant echoes of creatures moving about. In their place was a void, a silence so complete it was almost deafening. It was as if the cave was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The silence pressed in on him, amplifying the sound of his own heartbeat, which seemed to echo off the walls in a frantic rhythm. The faint glow of torchlight flickered ahead. Relief surged through Steve. He wasn't alone. The light was a beacon, a sign that someone else had been here, that he wasn't the first to brave the depths of this dark and foreboding place. He quickened his pace, drawn to the light like a moth to a flame, hoping that whoever had left the torch might still be nearby. He stumbled towards the light, his heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. Each step brought him closer to the source of the light, but also closer to the unknown. What if the torch was a trap? What if it led him deeper into danger? But he couldn't turn back now. He had to know. He had to see for himself. But as he rounded a corner, his blood ran cold. The light revealed a scene that was both unexpected and terrifying. His mind raced, trying to make sense of what he was seeing, but the reality was too shocking to process. It was a dead end. The path he had been following so desperately had led him to a wall, a barrier that seemed insurmountable. Panic set in as he realized there was no way out, no escape from the trap he had walked into. And standing between him and escape, bathed in the flickering torchlight, was Herobrine. The figure was unmistakable, a legend come to life, a nightmare made real. Herobrine's presence filled the cave, his aura of menace palpable. His eyes bored into Steve, filled with a cold, malevolent amusement. There was no escape, no way to avoid the confrontation that was now inevitable. Steve's heart pounded in his chest as he faced the embodiment of his deepest fears, knowing that the battle for survival had only just begun. Section 8, game over for Steve? Steve was trapped. He fumbled for his sword, the familiar way to small comfort in the face of unimaginable terror. But even as he drew his weapon, he knew it was futile. Herobrine simply smiled, a chilling, pixelated grin that sent shivers down Steve's spine. The world around him dissolved into a chaotic mess of colors and shapes. The ground beneath his feet crumbled away. He fell, tumbling into an endless abyss. The last thing he saw was Herobrine's face, his glowing eyes burning with triumph. Section 9, Herobrine's grip extends. Steve's computer flickered back to life. The harsh blue light of the game over screen filled his vision. He sat frozen, his breath caught in his throat. The echo of Herobrine's chilling grin seared into his mind. He reached out a trembling hand to exit the game. But as he moved the mouse, he noticed something strange. The cursor on the screen moved erratically, as if controlled by an unseen hand, and in the reflection of the now black screen, a pair of glowing white eyes stared back at him. Herobrine was no longer confined to the game.